When you think of building a theme park themed around the area it's located in, the possibilities are endless. For example, a California-based park in California that celebrates California, a surefire hit. Ignore the fact for a moment that you could just go and see the real places since, you were already there. Here, you could ride those experiences. We all have something that comes straight to mind when you think, what would a theme park themed around the place we are from encompass? For me, well, if you made a park Englandland, you have tons to work with. Iconic. In fact, that has often existed. Let's go closer to home specifically. Wiltshireland? Sure, no problem. Stonehenge is right there. Even closer? Swindonland? Oof. Never mind. Forget I said anything. Regardless of where you are from, each of us have iconic staples that could make a great theme for a theme park that could bring together the best the place had to offer. For this theme park, however, this was not the Florida of today. This was the tourist Florida of the 1960s, where a short-lived attraction opened that wanted to offer everything under the sun, taking the best of tourist attractions throughout the state of Florida and combining them to try and create a place that offered the best for one price. Before Disney World, before SeaWorld, there was Floridaland. During the 1960s, Florida was well known for its popular tourist attractions. From Cypress Gardens to Six Gun Territory, or Busch Gardens, the Sunshine State was able to offer a little bit of everything. After 3 years of planning, a new tourist attraction was coming that would aim to combine everything the major tourist attractions in the state offered into one. Located between Sarasota and Venice, Florida, near Osprey, on a quiet section of US 41, at a location that was chosen as it was halfway between the Ringling Museum and Circus Hall of Fame in Sarasota and the winter home of the Ringling Brothers Circus in Venice, where people were already come to visit. On Christmas Day 1964, a former cattle ranch was transformed into a $1.5 million theme park called Floridaland. This 50 acres of fun invited guests to travel between 10 small, different mini theme parks all in one location, and most importantly, for one low price. The idea came from an Osprey rancher and was created by James E. Myers and Don Jacobs, who had helped open a similar attraction in Biloxi, Mississippi, called Mississippiland. Oh, wait, no. Actually, it was called Six Gun Junction Ghost Town. But I really do like the name Mississippiland. The new Florida Ambitious project was expected to be a big boon to the local economy and hoped to be extremely popular on the west coast of the state. Floridaland was very exciting news for the locals and was in good graces as it planned to use local labor teams to build it. The hopes were high that this would transform the quiet, unused area into something special. Early plans even had areas reserved that could be the place for future homes. The original part of the plan, the theme park, was set to open in the summer of '64, but delays called a Christmas Day opening. These delays stem from the fact that the building codes were quite strict, and all buildings in the ghost town were required to be built out of fireproof material, such as concrete, rather than wood. They would have to theme fake facades over the outside to make it feel like an authentic Wild West town. Originally, they hoped they could just build the whole thing out of wood. While many were excited for the new attraction, others stated that Florida already had enough tourist attractions. Little did they know, though, what would come in the future.
Florida offers the greatest vacations under the sun. Florida, the place to be.
Floridaland would take what was on offer at other amusement parks around the world, and most specifically in Florida, and combine them into one package. All, most importantly, on offer under one ticket price. This was somewhat unusual at the time, as a single price admission that would admit those coming to all attractions was rarely found at theme parks and amusement parks around the world, and a huge effort was made to promote this fact, as it was a somewhat new way to operate an amusement park. Admission would cost $2.25 per adult and $1.25 per child. The park would feature the biggest landscaping project ever planned for the area, and was completed by the Bass family, who operated the Tropical Gardens in Sarasota. They would, when complete, operate an animal nursery at the entrance of the park. Within the attraction, the highlight had to be the Western Ghost Town, with shootouts every 90 minutes. The town included staples such as the Golden Nugget Saloon, with dancers performing regular shows, themed buildings that included shops where food, drinks, and gifts could be purchased. And adjacent to the ghost town would be an Indian village, which was inhabited by a family of Seminoles. This section of the park took inspiration from the popular Six Gun Territory and the many ghost town amusement parks throughout the USA. The town featured all the important Wild West recreational spots, such as a trading post, bank, general store, ice cream shop, and church with graveyard. Each store and concessions would be operated by private individuals, many of which were local businesses. The Wagon Wheel Cafe would be operated by the Venice mayor, who also had a restaurant chain. Many of the relics in the ghost town were donated and often authentic from the period. Nearby would be a whiskey still that dispensed sweet cider. There was no whiskey. The parks answered to Busch Gardens, except they were not allowed to sell alcohol, so this would have to do. There also would be the beautiful deer park where you could hand feed deer, and Goat Mountain. This can be considered the first mountain theme park attraction in Florida. You know, Space Mountain, Thunder Mountain, and Goat Mountain, the big three. In reality, it was a small mountain where you could feed goats. Two miniature trains transported visitors from the main section of the park, which wasn't really a train at all, just an electric jeep pulling wagons, leaving from the ghost town to the second section of the park, the porpoise and sea lion pools, where marine-based shows could be found throughout the day. The answer to the rising popularity of marine parks throughout the country. Moby, Juno, and a third porpoise arrived at their new home just days before the park opened, with Moby Dick being the only trained of the three. Owned by Robert Corbin, he stated the three dolphins were caught in the Marathon area. The park was incredibly proud of the fact they conducted the world's first porpoise-to-porpoise phone call in 1965, where Moby Dick would place a phone call to another porpoise at a sea life park in Hawaii. Truly a Florida thing to do. The answer to another popular tourist destination in Florida, Cypress Gardens, would be the Floridaland Gardens and Lover's Lane, home to over 200 varieties of tropical plants, bushes, and shrubbery, which could be looked up in a souvenir guide as you spotted them. Also on the bay, near the saltwater tanks, you could board a riverboat that took you on a trip down to Sarasota and back on a 45-minute journey. After a press preview for 2,000 invited guests, where everyone left impressed, many stated it would be one of the top attractions in the state. Floridaland welcomed more than 5,000 visitors on its opening day, Christmas Day, 1964. While starting off slow, more than 200,000 people visited during the first year of operation, and its popularity would continue to increase. The attraction was praised by those in government roles, as its success was proof that the rezoning of the land for the project, that had widely been objected to, was worth it. A huge emphasis in marketing was given to the 10 attractions for just one low price aspect of the park. But outside of this, they did not really have many plans to expand other than small tweaks and changes. After the first season, 1965 was planned to be its most Florida yet. The new addition for the year was sure to be a hit, an alligator farm with gator wrestling, its answer to Gatorland and one of the most Florida things you can do. While things seemed to be going well, not all was perfect for the small park. After more animals had been added to the park since opening, the problem was that within less than 6 months of opening, 3 porpoises had passed away in the pools. The cause of this was said to be insecticide poisoning. It was decided that the water in the 750,000-gallon pools had to be changed often. The very next day, they pumped out all the water with the help from the fire department and replaced it with new water from a nearby bay. They stated they would not get any new porpoises until the issue was fixed and it was confirmed safe. One of the suspected culprits for the issues was mosquito insecticides, but it was revealed this was not involved. Problems with the bay source water for the animal tanks would plague the park throughout its history, a constant drain on money that would never really be resolved or go away. Regardless, the park continued on and was becoming a popular tourist destination. The shows and attractions were deemed some of the best in the country, though that bar was quite low at the time, and the future looked bright with attendance surpassing expectations. The next phase was announced in 1966, when Holiday Inn would issue a franchise license for a new 100-room hotel coming to the park, complete with a swimming pool, garden and patio to enjoy the view. Floridaland opened their hotel in the summer of 1967. The area was starting to see the boom of growth as the gas station was also finally coming, that many expected and hoped for. An area that previously had nothing was now a must-visit destination. The issues with the quality of the porpoise pool, however, continued to affect the park, and it could never really cover the rising costs. Just after the hotel opened, red tide had invaded their pools, and the decision was made to move the porpoises from the park into the Holiday Inn hotel pool. The animals spent a week, all 9 of them, living in a Holiday Inn pool before moving back to their original tanks. Those staying there at the time said they got more than they bargained for when they booked. Some complained they were not allowed in the pool. Floridaland, with its pool issues, was starting to struggle. The hotel, however, was a huge success, adding dinner shows, nightly entertainment, and people were coming just to stay at the Holiday Inn. The current management of the park, however, was not working, and it was time for a big change. In 1967, the control and stock of Floridaland was purchased by Charles Hamilton, and he was elected president of the corporation. Charles Hamilton was the owner and operator of the Holiday Inn at Floridaland. Shortly after, it was announced that big investment was coming to the park, and a new general manager was put in place. The focus would be on expanding the attractions, and with it came the announcement of a cable sky ride. The park's management company had been merged with monorail firm SkyTrans Industries. SkyTrans had designed monorails, sky towers, and sky rides, which often were used at fairs around the country. The obvious choice was to build one of these at the new park, and the new owner wanted to make the park as successful as his Holiday Inn by giving an easy way to get between both. To re-evaluate plans and refurbish what was there, after the new owner came in, the park would now not open 7 days a week all year long, operating only on Saturday and Sundays during the off-peak season. During the close time, major restoration efforts were planned for the attractions. The 750-foot-long sky ride opened in 1969, the shortest sky ride the company had ever made, carrying riders between Floridaland and the Holiday Inn Hotel. It was encouraged that parkgoers ride over to the hotel for lunch and back. Floridaland promised that this was the start of a new era, and it showed their faith in the future growth of the area. The sky ride was touted as a 15-minute long attraction. That was if you got off and walked around the hotel and came back. Though it was nice to get panoramic views of Floridaland, the new attraction cost an additional 50 cents on top of the entrance fee each way. They said it was the most convenient way to get to one of the best-known buffet lunches in the area, conveniently located in the Holiday Inn dining room. This relaunch of the park would be touted as an all-new Floridaland, a new promise for the future with expansion in mind. Each of the original 10 experiences were freshened up with new shows and minor additions. Future additions to the area were promised, including a new fairground-style area with all new rides. Since taking over the company, they had bought out most of the park's concessionaires and were planning to operate everything themselves. This would not last long. Just over a year after opening, in 1970, the Skyride was dismantled and shipped to the Illinois State Fair. Those future rides and promises would never come, and one of the most popular sections of the park would be immediately closed and all actors let go. The Golden Nugget Saloon would sit silent. Gunfire was no longer heard in the streets. After nearly 6 years of operation, the tourist attraction would be partially shut down. The real heart of the experience, the Wild West town, would no longer operate, leaving the Porpoise Show and the boat ride on the Intracoastal Waterway as the main attractions. Visitors were still able to stroll through the gardens and see the petting zoo, and Goat Mountain still reigned as the original mountain attraction of Florida. You know, it officially goes Goat Mountain, Space Mountain, Thunder Mountain, Splash Mountain, Trash Mountain as the most iconic Florida mountain attractions. It's just a fact. Labor Day 1970 would be the final day for the full-scale operation of Floridaland's 10 attractions in one. With the closure of the shops in the western town, a combined shell shop where the entrance was opened, and those visiting would find their path to the once, and often even still advertised ghost town, blocked as it sat there abandoned, roped off. The ticket entrance price was lowered by 25 cents to compensate for the closure. The reason for the unexpected closure was stated as personnel problems and that there were just not enough guests to pay employees. Charles Hamilton stated that he may reopen it at Christmas. He said everyone coming was only really interested in the Porpoise Show and it was too expensive to pay all the actors. He also stated that Skytrans Industries had sold its franchise business of Skygliders, and the one here was the smallest, so it was the easiest to relocate to a fair and had been sold. The western section of Floridaland would never open again. In reality, behind the scenes, the owners had put in a zoning variance request to allow the construction of campers and trailers to turn the attraction into a campground. And Ghost Town was planned to be turned into a shopping centre to serve guests of the campground. This would eliminate the need for the entertainment and the need to pay actors if approved. It was not approved. There was one great threat looming in the future of Floridaland. Walt Disney World was about to open next year, and while many businesses welcomed the addition to the Sunshine State, with projections expected to increase attendance for other tourist attractions with the influx of new visitors to Central Florida, for the owner of Floridaland, he didn't think the current park could compete, regardless of it being projected to be a huge boost to tourism in the area. He said if the campground was not approved, they would need to expand Ghost Town to not be seen as just a worse version down the road from the Magic Kingdom. Sadly, vacationers to Florida would never be able to say they visited Disney World and Floridaland on the same trip. They would never operate at the same time. Floridaland would open in its reduced capacity one last time. In April 1971, Paul Paver, president of Paver Construction Company, confirmed that they had purchased the 200 acres of Florida land where Floridaland stood, contingent upon its rezoning for over $1 million. The initial plans by the new owners called for a $30 million low-density condo complex with a golf course to be developed over a period of several years. He said he planned to keep as much of the natural setting as possible for the new development, and it will be a water-orientated community with boat docks and other recreational facilities. The Floridaland Holiday Inn adjacent to the attraction would not be included in the purchase. Attendance had been dropping, and the cost became unmanageable, especially with the constant issues with the tanks used for animals in the park. The theme park that once offered 10 different experiences in one closed its doors on July 2, 1971, right before Walt Disney World would come and dominate the tourism market of the area. Many have stated that it was Walt Disney World which caused the closure of Floridaland, but in reality the park was struggling long before Disney ever opened. While the looming future of Disney Florida was on the park's mind at the time, it wasn't the reason that Floridaland would be sold. The Floridaland site sat closed and abandoned as the sale waited to be completed. In December 1971, the rezoning of the land was approved, despite 1,500 objections to keep it as open space, and the 160-acre housing development would happen. The Strathmore Realty Co. of Sarasota purchased the land for $1.2 million in early 1972. Most of the site sat abandoned, and piece by piece it was torn down and replaced by housing. Today you would have no idea the site was formerly a theme park. a Floridaland that tried to offer it all, bringing the best of Florida's tourist attractions together for one price. Today, the original Holiday Inn for the park that once housed the porpoises in its pool is the only remaining aspect left from the theme park's short life, operating today as the Casey Key Resort's mainland. In 2023, a Floridaland exhibit was added to the Venice Museum. After Floridaland closed, the porpoises were transferred to other facilities. As for the original star of the park, Moby Dick, in 1966, after 2 years of performing at the park, as the only animal previously trained before arriving there at opening, Moby Dick, the star that once called another porpoise on a telephone, was being trained to follow a boat which would be part of the park's attractions, along the intracoastal waterway. During the exercise, Moby got separated from the boat and refused to return, swimming off deeper and deeper until he was out of sight. A few weeks later, 60 miles north of Floridaland, a few boys were out on their boat when a porpoise came up to them and started performing small tricks, even towing them through the water. They nicknamed him Sharpie, but many, believe it was Moby Dick showing off his skills once again. After the sighting, the park said that if he was spotted again, they would pursue him and bring him back, even offering a $1,000 reward for anyone who sighted Moby Dick and led to its capture. The bounty for Moby Dick, the one-eyed porpoise, was never completed. Moby Dick was free and never seen from it again. Every now and then, he would appear to random people and perform a few tricks, reliving his time performing at Floridaland. I like to think he was on his way to find his friend that he called on the phone. Floridaland was unique, a theme park based on places that existed within the state of Florida, this time tourist attractions. If a Floridaland existed today, it might be a very different place. I like to think about a theme park based on current day places as the theme, and the thrills and horrors that it would entail, tourist attractions or not. The Floridaland of 2024 would be complete with Terrible Driver's trackless ride and the slowest ride in existence, I-4 by Champions Gate. Thinking of other places that could become theme park themes, the most obvious, Vegasland, complete with Lance Burton jumping off roller coaster Vegas experience. We missed you, Lance. It's been too long.
I was stupid. I was really stupid.
I also would like to see an erupting volcano. We also miss you, Mirage Volcano. Well, let's talk about a Swindonland, complete with a magic roundabout version of this ride, and all the other horrors of Swindon combined. Hashtag new Oasis sucks. Did I write this section just to say that? Maybe, but my Swindonians will know. If a theme park was built around where you are from, what would be the standout good and bad attractions? Let me know. We all dream of a theme park that encompasses our favorite aspects from each of our favorite parks around the world, and for a short time, Floridaland tried to be that. Its possibilities were endless, but in this case, sadly, not only did the park that combined the experiences fail, so did many of the ones that inspired it. Cypress Gardens, Six Gun Territory, beer brewing at Busch Gardens, creepy ice cream bunnies, all experiences that wouldn't make it through the test of time. Wait, that last one was after Floridaland? Well, damn, you got me. I just wanted everyone to experience the horror of the ice cream bunny one more time.
Well, it's time to go.
Floridaland was short-lived, in a different time that would never have been able to compete in a more modern age of tourist attractions in Florida, but for those who visited it, created cherished memories of a place that tried to offer the best of everything, yet sadly offered not enough to keep people coming back. It did, however, try, and while it failed, even greater, bigger places were lost to competition over the years. While Floridaland is often forgotten about, its story, like so many closed tourist attractions, should be remembered. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Expedition Extinct. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe to join the expedition. Follow us on social media for updates on upcoming episodes. We even have a Blue Sky now. A special thank you to our Patreons for supporting the channel, and we will see you next time.